Rachel Kim's head felt like it was being split open with an axe. Sunlight streamed through her bedroom window with offensive brightness, each ray a personal attack on her overtaxed nervous system. She groaned, pressing her face deeper into the pillow, desperately trying to hide from the cruel reality of a hangover. Then she heard it, breathing that wasn't her own. The rhythmic sound of someone else sleeping beside her. Her eyes snapped open despite the immediate protest from her pounding headache. Slowly, terrified of what she might find, Rachel turned her head toward the source of the sound. Her heart stopped completely. Adrian Cross, her boss, the man who signed her paychecks and ran the most successful tech company in San Francisco, was lying in her bed. Shirtless. His dark hair tousled in a way she'd never seen during their 3 years of working together. "No, no, no, no," Rachel whispered, sitting up so quickly the room spun. She clutched the sheet to her chest, only now realizing she was wearing nothing but an oversized t-shirt that definitely wasn't what she'd worn to the company party last night. Adrian stirred at her movement, his eyes opening slowly. For a moment, he looked disoriented. Then his gaze focused on her face, and instead of the shock or horror she expected, she saw something else: recognition, awareness, and worse, a slight smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. "Good morning," he said, his voice rough with sleep but carrying none of the panic currently flooding through Rachel's body. "What are you doing here?" The question came out sharper than intended, but her brain was too busy short-circuiting to worry about tone. Adrian sat up, the sheets falling to reveal a chest that Rachel immediately forced herself not to look at. This was her boss. Her incredibly successful, completely off-limits boss. "You don't remember?" he asked, studying her face. "Remember what?" Rachel's voice rose several octaves. "Adrian, the last thing I remember is dancing with Maria for marketing. Everything after that is just blank. Complete darkness. Nothing." He studied her for a long moment, processing this information. Then that small smile grew more defined. "Nothing at all?" "Nothing," she confirmed, hands gripping the sheet so tightly her knuckles turned white. "So I need you to tell me right now, did we actually sleep together?" Adrian swung his legs out of bed and reached for his dress shirt draped over her reading chair. He slipped it on with maddening slowness. "We did." The confirmation hit Rachel like a physical blow. She had slept with her boss. Her strict, by-the-book, never-crosses-professional lines boss. The man who'd once given her a formal written warning for being 5 minutes late to a client meeting. Oh my God. This is a disaster. We have to pretend this never happened. We have to go to work Monday and act like everything is completely normal. Is that what you want? Adrian asked, buttoning his shirt with deliberate precision. His gray eyes held hers with an intensity that made her stomach flip. "What I want?" Rachel laughed, the sound slightly hysterical. "Adrian, you're my boss. This is exactly the kind of thing that gets people fired or becomes a horrible scandal. You didn't answer my question." He picked up his jacket from the floor. "Is pretending this never happened what you actually want?" Rachel opened her mouth, then closed it again. What did she want? She had no idea what had happened between them. But looking at him now, standing in her bedroom with morning light catching the silver threads in his dark hair, she felt something stirring inside her that had nothing to do with alcohol-induced confusion. "I want to know what happened," she said finally. "I need to know exactly what I did. What we did." Adrian's expression shifted into something unreadable. He walked toward the door, then paused with his hand on the frame. "Maybe it's better if you remember on your own. The memories will come back, Rachel. They always do. Wait, you can't just leave without telling me anything." Rachel scrambled out of bed, momentarily forgetting her state of undress until she caught sight of herself in the mirror. She grabbed a robe and wrapped it around herself quickly, but Adrian was already heading down her hallway. "Adrian, please." She followed him, bare feet silent on the hardwood. "You can't drop this bomb and just walk away." He stopped at her front door, turning to face her one last time. In the harsh entryway light, she could see the faint shadow of stubble on his jaw, the slight wrinkles at the corners of his eyes that appeared when he was tired. He looked different than at the office, softer somehow, despite the situation. "I'll see you Monday morning, Rachel," he said quietly. 9 o'clock staff meeting. Try not to be late. Then he was gone, leaving her standing in her empty apartment with a pounding headache, a million questions, and the disturbing realization that part of her wished he had stayed. The weekend that followed was torture. Rachel spent hours scrolling through her phone, desperately searching for any clue about what had happened at the party. She found a few photos posted by co-workers, one of her laughing with Maria, another of the whole team around the dessert table, but nothing that explained how she'd ended up in bed with Adrian Cross. She called Maria on Saturday afternoon, trying to sound casual. "Hey, so about the party. When did you last see me?" I think around 10. You were by the bar talking to someone." "I left pretty early because David was texting about dinner." "Why?" "No reason. Just trying to piece together the night. Had a bit too much champagne." After hanging up, Rachel tried reaching out to others, but no one seemed to have witnessed whatever had happened between her and Adrian. It was as if they'd simply vanished from the party together, leaving no trail. By Sunday evening, Rachel had worked herself into a state of complete anxiety. She stood in front of her closet for 20 minutes trying to decide what to wear. Everything felt wrong, too casual, too formal, too provocative, too boring. Finally, she settled on a navy blue dress with a modest neckline and hem that fell just below her knees. Professional, appropriate, forgettable. Monday morning arrived with the inevitability of a storm. Rachel got to the office 15 minutes early, determined to be settled before Adrian arrived. But when she stepped off the elevator, she saw his office light already on. Of course. Adrian was always here before everyone else. She tried to slip past his door unnoticed, but his voice stopped her. "Rachel. A moment, please." Her heart hammering, she stepped into his office. Adrian sat behind his massive desk, looking exactly as he always did, impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit, hair perfectly styled, expression neutral and professional. If she hadn't woken up next to him 2 days ago, she would never believe it had actually happened. "Close the door," he said without looking up from his computer. Rachel obeyed, her palms suddenly sweaty. "Adrian, about Saturday morning. I think we should talk about what happened." "What's there to talk about?" He finally looked at her, and she saw something flicker in his eyes. "Amusement, maybe. You don't remember, and I've decided to respect your wishes. We'll pretend it never happened." "But it did happen." "Did it?" He leaned back in his chair. "If you can't remember it, Rachel, does it really matter?" She felt frustration bubbling up. "Yes, it matters. We crossed a major professional line. I'm handling it by moving forward." He turned back to his computer, effectively dismissing her. "The Morrison account presentation is due Friday. I need your draft by Wednesday." Was there anything else? Rachel stood stunned. "No. Nothing else." "Then I'll see you at the staff meeting in 15 minutes. She left feeling more confused than ever. This wasn't how Adrian operated. He was methodical, thorough, someone who addressed problems head-on. Yet here he was, acting as if nothing had happened. The staff meeting was excruciating. Every time Adrian spoke, Rachel found herself watching his mouth, wondering what those lips had done Saturday night. Every gesture made her try to imagine where those hands had touched her. "Rachel, your thoughts on the Henderson campaign?" She snapped back to attention, realizing everyone was staring. "Sorry, could you repeat the question?" Someone smirked. Maria gave her a concerned look. And Adrian simply watched her with that same enigmatic expression that was starting to drive her absolutely insane. She had no idea this was only the beginning. The following days were slow torture. Rachel threw herself into work with an intensity that surprised even her closest colleagues. She arrived early, stayed late, produced brilliant campaigns. But underneath, she was unraveling. Adrian seemed to take perverse pleasure in keeping her off balance. During a Tuesday meeting about the Morrison account, he leaned over her shoulder to review her laptop screen, his breath warm against her ear. "This section needs work," he murmured, his finger brushing hers as he pointed. "See me after the meeting." When everyone else filed out, Adrian closed the door. The click of the lock felt impossibly loud. "You wanted to see me?" Rachel kept her voice professional. "The campaign is good," Adrian said, perching on the edge of the conference table. "But you're distracted. Your writing usually flows better." "I'm fine. Just busy." "Are you?" He tilted his head. "Or are you spending all your energy trying not to remember?" The words hit like a slap. "That's not fair. What's not fair is that you get to forget while I remember every single detail." His voice dropped lower. "Every word you said, every sound you made, every touch." Heat flooded Rachel's face. "Adrian, stop. Why does it bother you? Not knowing?" He stood, moving closer. "Because I could tell you. I could describe exactly how you pulled me onto the dance floor after your third glass of champagne. How you whispered that you'd been watching me all night. How you kissed me first, right there where anyone could have seen." Rachel's breath caught. She could almost see it, almost feel it. But the memories remained frustratingly out of reach. "You're making this up," she said, but her voice lacked conviction. Adrian smiled. "Am I? Then why is your heart racing?" "Your body remembers, Rachel, even if your mind doesn't." Before she could respond, someone knocked. The moment shattered. Over the next few days, Adrian continued his campaign of strategic hints. A comment here, a knowing look there, each one designed to drive her crazy. Then everything changed. Rachel arrived Wednesday morning to find the office buzzing. She caught fragments of conversation. "Did you see the photos? They looked pretty cozy." Her blood turned to ice. She opened her email to find a message from an unknown address. "Thought you'd want to see these." 3 photos attached. The first showed her and Adrian on the dance floor, her arms around his neck. The second captured them leaving together, his jacket over her shoulders. The third, taken in the parking garage, showed them kissing beside his car. "Rachel. My office. Now." Adrian's voice came from behind her. She followed on numb legs, aware of every eye tracking them. Adrian closed the door and pulled down the blinds. "I've seen the photos. Half the office has too. This is a disaster." Rachel sank into a chair. "Everything I was afraid of is happening. Then let's control the narrative." He crouched in front of her chair, taking her hands. The gesture was so unexpected, so tender, that tears pricked her eyes. "We tell them we're together. That this isn't some sordid affair, but 2 people who genuinely care about each other. Are we together?" The question came out as barely a whisper. "I want us to be." His gray eyes held absolute certainty. "I've wanted that for longer than you know. I don't remember wanting anything." A smile tugged at his lips. "Then let me tell you. Let me give you back that night." Finally, Rachel nodded. Adrian positioned 2 chairs facing each other, close enough that their knees almost touched. The intimacy made Rachel's heart race. "The party started normally," he began. "I was making rounds, thanking staff. I don't usually drink at company events, but I kept noticing you. You were wearing this midnight blue dress that caught the light. You were laughing with Maria, dancing, completely at ease. Why were you watching me? Rachel asked softly. Because you're brilliant. Because you challenge me in meetings. Because you have this way of biting your lower lip when you're concentrating that drives me crazy. He leaned forward. Because somewhere along the way, I stopped seeing you as just an employee. Warmth spread through Rachel's chest. What happened next? Around 9:30, you came up to me. You'd had champagne, your eyes were bright, cheeks flushed. You said, "Adrian Cross, you've been standing in corners all night looking miserable. Dance with me." A flash of memory hit Rachel. The confidence alcohol had given her, the way Adrian had looked surprised. I remember that. I thought you looked lonely. I was lonely, Adrian admitted. But you didn't give me a chance to refuse. You grabbed my hand and pulled me onto the dance floor. We danced to 2 songs. The second was slower. You stepped closer, put your arms around my neck, and said, "Why do we pretend we don't feel this?" Rachel's breath caught. She could almost feel it now, the warmth of his body, the solid strength of him. I said it was complicated. That we needed to be careful. And you laughed at me. His voice softened. You said life was too short to be careful all the time. Then you kissed me. The memory crashed over Rachel like a wave. The taste of champagne, the shock of her own boldness, the way Adrian had frozen before kissing her back with intensity that made the room disappear. I remember, she whispered. God, I kissed you in front of everyone. Most people had left. But yes. He paused. We left together. In the parking garage, you kissed me again. We barely made it to my car. But I stopped you. Told you that if we did this, it had to mean something. You needed to be sure. What did I say? You said you'd never been more sure of anything. That you were tired of playing it safe. His eyes darkened. Then you asked me to take you home. More memories flooded back. The drive to her apartment, his hand on her knee, her nervous excitement mixed with certainty. We talked in the car, Rachel said slowly. You told me about your father. About following rules your whole life. Until that night. He squeezed her hands. We went inside. We kissed. We connected. And afterward, we talked for hours. I told you things I've never told anyone. Rachel felt tears threatening. Why didn't you just tell me this Saturday morning? Adrian's expression grew serious. Because there's something else. Something I told you that night that you need to remember on your own terms. What are you talking about? He stood, walking to his desk and pulling out a folder. Saturday night, after everything, we were lying in bed talking. You asked why I never date anyone from work, why I keep everyone at distance. And I told you the truth. Rachel's pulse quickened. What truth? My daughter. Lyra. She's 7 years old, and she's the reason I've kept my personal life so private. He opened the folder, showing her a photo of a small girl with his dark hair and eyes that seemed to hold galaxies, deep purple and otherworldly. I don't understand. Why would having a daughter? Rachel stopped, really looking at the photo. The girl's skin had a subtle purple tone that shimmered. Her mother wasn't human, Adrian said quietly. She was an alien physicist studying Earth's quantum technology. We fell in love. She died when Lyra was born. I've kept Lyra hidden because if anyone discovered her existence. Rachel stared at the photo, her mind reeling. This was impossible. Except she could see the evidence right in front of her. You told me this Saturday night, she whispered. Yes. And you didn't run. You didn't judge. You held me and told me you understood why I'd been so guarded. His voice cracked. That's when I knew what we had was real. I want to meet her, Rachel said. Adrian looked stunned. You do? You just told me you have a daughter who's half alien, and yes, that's insane and impossible, but if it's true, I want to meet her. That evening, Adrian drove Rachel to his estate outside the city. Through secure corridors, he led her to a wing filled with advanced technology and learning materials. A small girl sat reading, her skin a soft lavender that shimmered subtly. When she looked up, her purple eyes assessed Rachel with unsettling intelligence. Lyra, this is Rachel. She's someone important to me. Your cardiovascular rhythm increased when you saw me, Lyra observed. Curiosity rather than fear. That's unusual in humans. Hi, Lyra, Rachel said, kneeling. Your dad says you love learning. What are you studying? Advanced calculus and stellar cartography. Father thinks I should have more friends, but humans my age find me strange. Over the next few weeks, Rachel visited daily. She brought puzzles, played games, treated Lyra like the brilliant child she was. The girl bloomed under attention, laughing and playing in ways Adrian said she never had before. She's never connected with anyone like this, Adrian said one evening, watching them work on a science project. You're giving her what I couldn't, acceptance. But workplace tensions were mounting. HR called Rachel in for a meeting. We've received complaints about your relationship with Mr. Cross, the HR director said. Several employees feel it creates an uncomfortable environment. Adrian and I are addressing this properly. Nevertheless, we need to investigate whether any preferential treatment has occurred. You'll be temporarily reassigned while we review your employment history. Rachel left the meeting devastated. That night, she found anonymous messages on her voicemail. Everyone knows you slept your way up. Gold digger. Homewrecker. The cruelty was staggering. Colleagues who'd been friendly now avoided her. Maria was supportive, but others whispered when she passed. Adrian found her crying in her office after hours. I'm destroying your career, she sobbed. Everything you've built. You're worth more than my career, he said fiercely. Rachel, I love you. And I love that you love Lyra. Don't let them break us. But what kind of future do we have? You can't even bring Lyra out in public. I'll always be the woman who slept with her boss. How do we build a life from this? Adrian was quiet for a long moment. What if we didn't have to build it here? 2 weeks later, Adrian made an announcement that shocked the entire company. He was selling his stake to his business partner and stepping down as CEO. I'm keeping a consulting role, but I need to prioritize what actually matters, he told the board. My daughter. My future with Rachel. A life that isn't defined by this office. They relocated to a private estate in Northern California, secure, isolated, and beautiful. Acres of protected land where Lyra could finally run freely, her purple skin glowing in sunlight. Rachel transitioned to remote consulting, working with select clients while homeschooling Lyra. The girl thrived with freedom and acceptance, creating stunning artwork and studying advanced physics with visiting scientists who'd signed strict confidentiality agreements. 6 months after leaving San Francisco, Rachel stood on their deck watching Lyra play in the meadow below. Adrian wrapped his arms around her from behind. Happy, he murmured. More than I ever imagined possible. Even though you can't remember our first night together? Rachel turned in his arms. Actually, I do remember now. All of it. The dancing, the confessions, the way you looked at me like I was the only person in the world. What finally brought it back? This morning, watching you make pancakes with Lyra. The way you were so patient explaining why the batter needed to rest. The way she laughed when flour got in your hair. Rachel's eyes filled with tears. I realized that night wasn't about the alcohol or the boldness or even the physical connection. It was about recognizing someone who could be my family. Adrian kissed her deeply. I love you, Rachel Kim. Thank you for choosing us. Thank you for reminding me who I am when I'd forgotten. That evening, they told Lyra they were getting married. The girl calculated there was an 89% probability they'd have more children, which made them both laugh. As they sat under the stars, three souls who'd found each other against impossible odds, Rachel reflected on the journey. She'd woken up with no memory of the most important night of her life. Adrian had tortured her with hints and teases until the truth emerged. She'd discovered an impossible secret and chosen love over career. What had seemed like disaster became their foundation. The forgotten night led to remembered love. The scandal became their escape route. The half-alien child became the daughter of Rachel's heart. I used to think forgetting that night was the worst thing that could happen, Rachel said softly. And now? Adrian asked. Now I know that some things are worth forgetting just for the joy of remembering them again. Worth losing everything for the chance to gain what really matters. Lyra snuggled between them, pointing out constellations in her mother's language, a musical sound that meant home and belonging. Rachel had woken up confused and panicked, unable to recall what happened at a party. But in losing those memories, she'd gained something far more valuable, the chance to fall in love twice. Once in a champagne-fueled night of honesty and passion, and again slowly, deliberately, with full awareness of what she was choosing. Sometimes the best love stories begin with a blank page. Sometimes forgetting is the first step to truly remembering. And sometimes, the morning after is just the beginning of forever. As stars wheeled overhead and Adrian's arms held her close, Rachel finally understood. She couldn't recall a thing from the party until he reminded her. But what he'd really reminded her of was herself, the bold, honest, loving woman she'd always been beneath the professional armor. And that woman had chosen perfectly. Retry Claude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.